Hey everyone, in this video we will be talking about the world between wars. We are going to be identifying the causes and effects of world wars and their impact on political, economic, and social systems, summarizing causes of global depression, explaining response of governments to global depression. We will be describing the emergence and characteristics of totalitarianism, explaining the roles of Mussolini, Hitler, Stalin, and Roosevelt prior to World War II. We will be identifying the historical origins and characteristics of fascism, and also the characteristics of totalitarianism. By the time that we are done, you will be able to summarize political, social, and economic conditions of Europe and the United States after World War I. So let's talk about the United States after World War I. The United States experienced an economic boom during the 1920s. This period is known as the Roaring Twenties. During this time, consumers are going to buy a lot of products that are produced in factories, and that's going to stimulate the economy. Some Americans are also going to invest their money in Europe, specifically in Germany. And this prosperity is going to spread from the United States to the countries of Europe, Asia, Africa, and Latin America. Americans were producing a lot of new inventions during the 1920s, and some of these things were sold in catalogs like what you see here. Vacuums, refrigerators, toasters, these were household appliances that were being purchased by a lot of the American consumers. We also see that people spend money on entertainment like the movies and radio. We also see some new values emerge during the 1920s. Women get the right to vote during this time, and that was given to them by the 19th Amendment. Women will begin to experience more independence. They'll want to seek higher education. Single women will also begin to frequent nightclubs or wear short skirts. So what you see here are actually considered very short skirts and quite scandalous for the time. These women are known as flappers, and we also see a lot of political ideas emerge. These socialist ideas from Europe have come all the way to the United States and influenced society. The prosperity of the 1920s ended with the stock market crash of 1929. During that time, the stock prices began to fall drastically, and people panicked and sold their stocks, making things worse. This started a chain reaction that's reached Europe and also caused a lot of economic problems there. The Depression followed the stock market crash, and this is an economic downturn, is a really bad recession, and during a recession we see a lot of businesses close down, including banks, and that leads to very high unemployment. So several things caused the Depression to happen. First, there's over-speculation. People borrowed money in order to invest in stocks and real estate, and so when their investments failed, they weren't able to pay back those debts. We also see the overproduction of goods. So factories just started cranking out goods when there really wasn't that big of a demand for them. When you saturate the market with your products, that brings prices down, and so eventually the products are sitting on a shelf and they're not selling. You also see that the government doesn't want to interfere. Remember that the government has a laissez-faire policy towards economics. They believe that you leave economics alone, and so the President Hoover, who was in charge at the time, argued that things were going to turn around on their own. We just needed to be patient. So they stopped spending, they cut off trade, they stopped lending money, thinking that they would save money, and instead they made the recession worse. So a new president was elected in 1932, President Roosevelt, and he argued that the government needed to help people through the Depression. So he did this through a very aggressive program known as the New Deal. This was his plan for economic relief, recovery, and reform. He wanted to provide relief for workers or people who were unemployed. He wanted to provide economic recovery by creating jobs, and then he also wanted to reform the government and businesses so that something like this never happened again. He put a lot of people to work, and he also started a lot of social programs that are still with us today, like Social Security. political ideologies started to change in the 1920s and 30s. We begin to see more totalitarian states. These are governments that control every aspect of their country, and their leaders are usually dictators. In Italy, we'll see a new political party emerge known as the fascists. In a fascist system, the dictator controls everything, and opposition to this particular party is not permitted. Some of the characteristics of fascism include extreme nationalism and totalitarian leaders. So people in a fascist state believe that the nation is better than others and that the nation is more important than the individual person. They also believe that communism is bad, and they're strongly opposed to its influences. Totalitarian leaders who follow the fascist model include Benito Mussolini and Hitler. A couple other characteristics of fascism include the unity of all social classes and extreme militarism. So fascists believe that there should be one political party to unite all of the people, and they also believe in social Darwinism, the idea that the powerful have the right to oppress the weak or defeat the weak, and that the weak will die out. They oppose worker unions and strikes as well. They use violence to defeat their political opponents, and they also use war for national expansion. They believe that war is a glorious experience. There are several factors that allow for fascism to grow in Europe, and they include anti-Semitism, racism, and social Darwinism. Anti-Semitism is the idea that Jews are to blame for everything that goes wrong. Jews are a unique culture, and because of their differences, they're usually blamed for all of the problems in Europe. And then, of course, there's a lot of racist ideology coupled with social Darwinism. These are strengthened by imperialism and nationalism because these white European nations are able to dominate ethnic minorities. So in Italy, this is where the fascist party begins. First, it started because a lot of communist ideas began to circulate the country, and you saw a lot of strikes and riots frequently rise up. So people feared that a communist revolution like Russia would take place. And so Benito Mussolini, who was the leader of the fascist party, came to power, and once he obtained power, he censored the press, he abolished all of the unions and outlawed strikes. He murdered opposition leaders, and he turned Italy into a totalitarian state. The Soviet Union came under the control of Joseph Stalin when he succeeded Lenin after his death. Stalin modeled to the rest of Europe how to build a totalitarian state. He was able to eliminate his rivals through purges, and he sent all of his opponents to icy gulags. Those are labor camps in Siberia where they were worked to death or even executed. The Ukrainian people did not want to submit to Stalin, so he starved the people out and tried to kill them all out. Okay, so now let's talk about Germany. The Weimar Republic came to power after they overthrew the Kaiser right before the end of World War I. And under their government, we saw Germany experience a lot of economic problems. The huge reparations, let me fix that typo right there. Here we go, sorry. So they had to pay these huge reparations to France and Great Britain, and in order to do that, they thought that they could just print more money. However, when you print more money, you create hyperinflation. That means that your money loses value. And what you see here in this picture are kids playing with stacks of money because that's how worthless the paper became. A lot of people began to oppose the Weimar Republic. They were criticized by landowners, industrialists, military leaders, and professionals. The Weimar Republic was blamed for the Treaty of Versailles, which was very harsh on Germans and humiliated them. And also, the fear of a communist revolution had people on edge. We'll talk more about Germany when we do the lecture tomorrow. And that brings us to journal entry number 33. Consider the economic, social, and political issues plaguing Europe after World War I. Why do you suppose totalitarian leaders like Mussolini and Stalin were able to rise to power under those conditions? Make sure that you complete your journal, and if you have any questions, bring them to class. Thank you for watching.